And here we are, on to our next conversation. And as promised, we will be talking matters agriculture. To be specific, we are looking at how Africa's agricultural future is being reshaped this far, and we will be narrowing it down to utilizing advanced technologies to enhance crop productivity. And joining me for this conversation is one Alex Ngugi Wangeshi, PhD, and he is an agroecologist, climate change resilience expert, and principal lab analyst of KBC. So it is a pleasure for us to have him here so that he can be able to tell us more on how we are advancing in technology matters, crop productivity in Africa and in Kenya as well, to be specific. So welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you on board.
Yeah.
All right, when we talk about advancements in technology, we know that technology has advanced across different aspects, you know, and different industries as well, and agriculture being one of them. So what does the future of agriculture look like compared to the moment?
Yeah, so agriculture is growing, it's evolving. We are not where we would like to be yet, but there are steps clearly from government interventions, also from private sector investments, and even the farmers themselves. So one thing about Africa is that we hold a lot of uncultivated land. So to be specific, it's estimated that 60% of global arable land that's uncultivated, that's the potential hasn't been tapped, is actually in Africa. So what does that mean? It means that we have the potential to actually utilize this space. We have the potential to also apply technology to advance agricultural systems. And now coming down or focusing on Kenya is that for the longest time, I remember when I was growing up, we used to say, ukulima ni uti wa mgongo, the backbone of the economy, right? But I think over time that has slowly dissipated with the youth, of course, favoring white-collar jobs and, of course, rural-urban migration. So there has been a phase where sort of like agriculture has been forgotten. But slowly we are coming back because people have realized that we need to keep feeding, we need to feed the growing population, and we are not producing more land. So we still have the same earth or land mass that we have. So what that needs to be done is intensification. And a better term to say that is sustainable intensification. Because if you continue producing without caring for the environment, at some point you reach somewhere that you're either degrading your environment and then having more negative impacts than even the positives of the food. So yeah, it's an interesting phase where we're also seeing people leading innovations that are reducing the input costs, thereby making it even more lucrative, and even embracing data to inform production, to make sure that in as much as we want to make money, we are doing it sustainably and making it as a business. So we are moving from agriculture as not just a way of life, as a business that's employing also technology.
Yeah, and you've mentioned, you know, that, agriculture has dissipated in a way simply because now more young people are looking at white-collar jobs and, jobs surrounding that area and not agriculture. So how do we make agriculture maybe appealing to the younger generation? Do you feel like there's a way we can actually make it appealing to the younger generation so that we have more youth wanting to be part of, farming and agriculture?
For sure, for sure. The youth, of course, need to be motivated to get into it. One way is showing them that it's not just something you do to pass time or as a way of life just because you saw your parents doing it, but as a business that's led by a conscious decisions to actually embrace things like technology to make money. So when we say about the youth, I like to group them as probably millennials, the Gen Zs, the upcoming Gen Alphas, right? So it's more about making them see and forcing technology to actually be in it. And there are various ways of doing it. We still have the evolving world of AI where people can actually have apps and things like that, telling them what to do. But also, they are even, before you even do it, you can even integrate it in education. The previous speakers were talking about the education status at the moment, but this is where we also need to see how can we introduce, I know we have agriculture as a subject in primary and high school, but how do you inject this way of agriculture as a business, not just as a side hustle, and making them see that when they get out there, they can be employers themselves, engaging in business as a farming. You can even have cool stuff like agrotourism, where you take them to farms that are technologically well equipped, or even people doing simple things, but then having very, very nice output. And agriculture is not just crops, it's even animals and even producing things for medicinal purposes and things like that. So yeah, there's a huge, and it has to be packaged in a way that they understand. Right now they're on TikTok, they're on social media, Instagram.
Exactly.
So you need to embed in those and show the cool stuff, because agriculture, it's also very therapeutic. So when you engage in, and if you can do it as a business, also embracing this leveraging on technology, then why not? They will jump into it if it makes sense.
Yeah, and it should be a good way in curbing the unemployment issue in the country, because we have more than, I guess, 60% of unemployed youth at the moment. So I agree with you that it's a gap that is there, and as you put it, it's quite lucrative if you go into it as a business opportunity. Now, as we get to look at ways that we're utilizing advanced technologies to enhance crop productivity, probably just get to talk about crop productivity a bit. When we talk about crop productivity, what are we looking at?
So you're looking at, of course, growing plants, and then you have a target output. That will be your harvest, right? But I always try to talk about crop production and starting it from the inception, or looking at your primary input. What are you starting with before you even decide or even get to that end product? And food systems, they line up from production to distribution to value addition, all the way to your plate, if it's food that you're producing. And a huge and often neglected component is soil. Everything comes from the soil. So production, in that sense, has to go to how is the quality or how is the health of your soil. And then, if it's not at a status that you'd like for it to be for production, what are you adding? And what you're adding, does it also meet the qualities or the nutrients, if it's the nutrients that you're adding to the soil? And then lining up to growth, and then you also have to control things like pests, diseases, so of course other inputs. All these have to be planned for, because if you don't plan, then you plan to fail. And if you're applying these fertilizers, how are you applying them? And how are you monitoring to ensure that the crop has gotten what it wants? Sometimes you need to plan way before, because if you're adding manure, it will be slow releasing. So it has to coincide with the plant needs. And when the crop is at a certain stage, probably it's budding or you're producing fruits, what kind of other inputs like foliar fertilization, which are adding more nutrients to ensure that the crop has enough strength, so to say, to sustain itself. Then you move from there and you get to harvest. Of course, another thing that I forgot is that you need to know where you're taking your crop. So you probably have a market. Or if you don't have a market, you're probably waiting for a broker who will come to your farm, and then you negotiate and all that. But that's also another thing, because you're trying to minimize your input, but also maximize the output, because that will dictate how you get paid. And then after that, there could be things like post-harvest and things like that, where you try to ensure, or even value addition. And this is where also the government is also trying to help farmers, even building aggregation centers, to ensure that you even reap more by adding value to your harvest. Yeah, so it's looking from your input to the growth process, and then the harvest, and where you're taking the product.
So that entire process is crop productivity, to the point where it's getting to the market.
Yeah, or food systems, just to ensure that you cover the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay, getting back to the advanced technologies, maybe what advanced technologies are currently in use?
So the advanced technologies, and one thing, the interesting bit with Kenya is that 70% of crop production of agriculture is actually dominated by small-scale farmers.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of disintegration, or like everybody's doing their own thing, right? The technologies that are being used, if we compare them with the developed countries, we are a bit behind. One thing is because sometimes it's not economical to apply the advanced technologies to small-scale farmers. This would be things like drones, satellite imagery, to actually see where you have deficiencies in your crops. But it's slowly coming into place, and a good example is in soil testing, like I said before. Currently, the methods that are used for soil testing, they take quite long. It takes about maybe a minimum of 2 weeks before you can get your whole profile or the status of your soil. This is not practical, especially if you're looking at scaling these tests to more geographical coverage and also testing over time, because the soil will change its nutrient composition based on what you planted last season and what you want to grow the next season. So an advanced technology coming into place in soil testing, that's aim is to, number one, reduce the number or the duration that you have to wait for the results, and also the costs. So we are moving from the wet chemistry methods that I said would take longer to spectroscopic techniques, and that's one of the areas that I've been researching on, where you have the possibility of going to the field and even testing the soils on site and getting critical parameters that can then advise right there. And this also helps in terms of making timely interventions. Because if you're looking at a planting season and you're testing your soil probably a week before you put your seed in there, you need to know now what do I need to change, what fertilizers, what kind of manure, what kind of amendments do I need to put in the soil. Sometimes you could be planting, let's say, cabbage, but the soil pH is not favorable for growth of cabbages. Why? It could be too acidic, meaning, number one, some of the nutrients will not be available for the plant. Now, I need to know that now. I don't want to wait for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, when the rains are already like halfway, almost ending. Yeah, so soil testing is one area that even in the country we have already slowly started implementing those kind of things.
Yeah, and how do we ensure that these advancements, the ones that you've just mentioned, are benefiting both the commercial and smallholder farmers? Because as you've mentioned, the larger scale are the small scale farmers, right? So how do you ensure that they also get to benefit from these advancements?
Yes.
Are there strategies in place as we speak?
Yeah, so one thing is, of course, agriculture is an evolved function. So an easier way to get to the farmer would be to grow through the county governments and then sort of like help them aggregate. Another thing would be, well, the large-scale farmers or the commercial, we don't worry much about because they have their own systems, right? Where agronomic, they have agronomists who are right in the field. But an easy way, like I said, farmers aggregating, they can access some of these techniques. Not every individual farmer owning the technique or owning the instrument, but when they come together, they can have a structure where it's probably through cooperatives or things like that, and then they will be sharing. Of course, with the partners, donor partners, they also heavily invest on these kinds of techniques to ensure that farmers can, within a pool, enjoy some of these interventions that help them make decisions and accurate decisions when they decide to grow their crops.
Yeah. All right. Is there a way that progress is measured, in this agricultural transformation? Yeah,
a proposal would be trying to, there could be different kinds of key indicators. Right now, there's a big conversations about sustainability and about agroecology, as you rightly mentioned, is that we need to see that we are producing more, but also conserving the environment. So a good way to do that would be looking at probably how we are sequestering carbon back into the soil. This is, of course, helping to mitigate effects of climate change. So when you tell a farmer, well, do crop rotation, maintain cover crops to ensure that you don't leave your soil bare, and then there will be erosion. Practice agroforestry, so have trees in your, to make sure that you are, also capturing carbon from the atmosphere. If you are able to measure that there is an increase in soil carbon or in soil organic carbon, that's a good way. A direct way would be to see that you have increased yield from last season to this season because you did this and that and that. And that, of course, motivates the farmer to replicate that, but not just that, to be like a train the trainer. So they will be your best advocate to their fellow farmers that, I tried this and I have reduced my input cost and I have gotten this much of yield.
Yeah. Now there's biotechnology. I would want for us to look at the role it plays in all of this, having in mind that it is also quite a controversial topic, specifically in Africa and in Kenya. We've had that topic as a controversial a topic, especially when we talk about the genetically modified, So how about we take a break, and then when we come back, we'll get into that. Don't you go too far.
My name is Salim Mvurya, the Cabinet Secretary, Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports. And I want to tell all Kenyans, Chan is here with us. I want to invite you to Kasarani so you can rally our Harambee Stars team. The tickets are affordable, 200, 500, 1,000. Harambee Stars is playing, Kenya is playing. Let's meet at Kasarani. Tuko pamoja.
Unafanya nini hapa?
I have a family as well, as you know, and this is not the kind of reception I expected from you.
And now that you've seen them, can't you just leave?
Jenny mkora, hata unajua.
Stop yelling. Oh, ana variat. Wewe ufanya tu vile vyote unataka alafu babako ana variat, si ndio? Unasikiza story yangu mama?
No, just stop it.
How many times do you want me to say I'm sorry?
You think it's easy?
Yaani nishinde nikita na jina yako huko kote na unisikii.
So unashinda ukishout unakuwa na namba yangu.
Mzunguzwa. Riembeteng.
Ndio nini hiyo?
Habari mzee.
Na uwezi kusema tu habari mzee.
Umesema ni sisi tulikurongoka. Wewe na huyo beste yako. Umejuaje ni sisi? Ndio umesema au kucheki. Ulijuaje ni sisi ndio tuliweka hizo mishumari? How did you know? Unaweza explain ya Muhesh aje ati ni sisi tuliweka hapo mamushu na tukaweka madimanga ndio gari zikikuja zisipite. Hebu prove ya Mbwenya.
Mushu ni nini? Mushu?
Mushu ni mshumari.
Oh, msumari.
Wewe utaongea ile kitu mimi nitaelewa. Wewe nyamaza. Wewe na wewe unaelewa hata hiyo lugha huyu anaongea.
19 nations will compete in the Total Energies CAF African Nations Championship, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania 2024, which will be staged from 2nd to 30th August 2025. Amongst the 4 groups in the tournament A to D, Kenya is pooled in Group A, together with Morocco, Angola, DR Congo and Zambia.
Algeria from the set piece, the header is on target, but it's saved.
This unique competition featuring the best locally based players from across the continent definitely has something for everyone. Just bring your A game as you let it flow live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
And we are back. Thank you for staying with us. In case you're just joining us, we are talking matters agriculture. And to be specific, we're looking at ways to utilize advanced technologies in enhancing crop productivity. And with me is Alex Njugi Wangeshi, PhD, who is an agroecologist. So before we took that break, we were talking about, we had just introduced biotechnology as part of this whole, advancement in technologies when it comes to the future of agriculture in Africa. What role does it play?
So yeah, this is a very interesting topic, and I'd like to first say that these are just my personal views on biotech and what I think it can do for agriculture as a whole. So there are two schools of thoughts. Number one is that biotech, and so to say, the elephant in the room, the GMOs, is that they have shown capability to improve productivity, resilience to drought, and also attacks from pests and diseases. So it's science, and it has advanced crop production, even in other countries, more so for things that are not necessary for consumptions, like cotton. We have BT cotton that's really good and doesn't need to be sprayed. But then on the other hand, the other school of thought is that this modification that we are not really sure of the effects and what would happen if you are continuously consuming genetically modified products. So in a way, my own personal view is that there is definitely huge potential to improve, especially in the face of climate change, to improve productivity when we embrace GMO. The thing here is that we have to be aware. Of course, before any product is introduced to the market, it has to go through rigorous testing and field trials and things like that to ensure that it behaves in a way that's acceptable. So as a scientist, I'm looking at it from a data point of view and saying that if we are improving production, if we are reducing the use of pesticides to spray to control pests and diseases, then it's a good thing. But of course, science keeps on evolving. What we know now might change 10, 20 years later.
Sure.
So it's a continuous process, but I don't think we should close the door about innovations and biotech, because we can leverage on it and actually produce. I talked about sustainable intensification. Biotech is one of the ways to ensure that we are intensifying, because tell you what, if I grow the same seed that was being grown by my grandmother 50 years ago, with a changing climate, that's the chances of me harvesting good or bumper harvest are very minimal. But if I go with changing times and introduce a seed that's resistant to drought, that's resistant to some of the pests that are capable of reducing your harvest by zero, not even 50%, then I would like to go to these ones that guarantees, because either way we need to, we are a growing population, not just Kenya, but globally.
Yeah, we need to look at our food security.
We need to look at our food security. And one thing is that slowly Kenya or Africa is slowly coming out of food security, because of course we are using fertilizers and good inputs. Now we are looking at food safety. But also, if you are not careful with the erratic weather pattern changes, we could very fast go back to crisis in food security. So it's upon us to actually embrace every innovation, every idea that sort of guarantees us or gives us the hope that we can continue producing sustainably.
Okay,
Yeah.
well answered. Now, when we talk about some of the challenges maybe that may be surrounding the utilization of or utilizing the advanced technologies in Kenya, digital literacy has to be somewhere topping the list, right? So how are there strategies that you feel can be put into place in order to just bridge that gap when it comes to the divide that is there in digital literacy in agriculture?
Sure, and this is a point where you in a very cruel way, you're told to shape up or sheep up, right? So it can be embedded, and one of the things that's being used or that has enabled this kind of transition to happen is the slow access to smartphones and even internet connectivity. And now we are even having the population slowly gradual shift of people who are conversant with using smartphones and engaging in internet and also consuming information directly. Of course, this is a good thing, and one way to ensure is that there's this organic kind of system where I'm the kid that teaches my parent how to navigate these kind of issues. Yeah. But there's also information flow. If I don't have a smartphone, there's another way of probably using USSD code to get this information. But I need to know. So the radio stations, the people out there will be constantly telling farmers or people how to access information related to agricultural productivity. Then, of course, we have apps and things like that have been seen to quickly help farmers to access information. But we have to be careful, because with information also comes misinformation or disinformation.
Sure.
Yeah. So you have this crowding of a lot of information, and how do you discern what's true and what's not true? There are cases of telephone farmers or internet farmers who are just relying solely on what they see on the internet and believing to be the gospel truth. So that's the challenge, because you have to be able to remove all this noise and get the signal. So if you have a lot of noise and less signal, you get lost in there. Yeah. So it's a give and take kind of thing. But I think with more, even AI, like I said, it has this very nice potential to help farmers, because you can even take a photo of a crop and then you advise, but then you also fall into the trap of it could be true or not true. So get the information, consume it, but also verify. And I think that way you increase your chances of getting it right. Not the first time, but probably the second or third time.
Yeah. Maybe another challenge that we can get to highlight, I can imagine, is trust. And by trust, I mean, there are communities or there are farmers who are used to the traditional way of doing things. Their traditional methods that have been working are still working, so they're wondering, why are you introducing these new things? I'm sure that is also a challenge. So how do we go about that, introducing or ensuring that now there's the trust bit in these tech solutions? Okay.
And this is where agroecology comes into place, because one of the pillars of agroecology is that you have to integrate indigenous knowledge, local knowledge. These people, like you rightly mentioned, we have been doing this over the past, years.
And it has been
working.
It
has been working.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't come from whatever and import new knowledge and tell them, forget all this. No. You are integrating local knowledge, but you're also bringing in ecological principles, which means that you're looking at organisms, how they relate with each other, how they relate to the environment, and also bringing in issues of social justice. So agroecology looks at sustainability, local knowledge, and ecological principles. With this, you have a better chance of achieving, because when you say this has been working, it could be that I've been planting in this cycle. So maybe I plant potatoes this season and I rotate it with beans the next season. Yeah. That's in its way, it's a very nice, because you are, number one, minimizing the spread of diseases that could be borne to potatoes. When you plant beans, you're fixing nitrogen from the atmosphere into the soil, thereby reducing the need for even applying more fertilizers. And now the trust has to come through demonstration that if we integrate what you have, with what I have, we have the chance to improve. If I come and tell you that I respect what you've been doing, and I think that we can even get more by integrating your knowledge with this new knowledge, I think there will be more acceptability that this can work. Now, from there, that's why training starts with things like demonstration farms, where you have like a small trial where you try this new thing and compare it with what has been in existence.
Yeah.
When that works, or if it doesn't work, then you get learnings from it and then you try again. It will really help. And this is where we talk about trying small and then scaling it. Even for farmers, I'm sure there are people who, when they are trying something new, they don't go all in. You try by doing something that you haven't been doing before. So a good example is with soil testing, I go back to it. I know most of the farmers, these are not hard facts, but I know probably 90% of the small scale farmers that we've been talking about, they apply fertilizers based on ways that they were doing before or ways that were being done by their parents before. That in this piece of land I apply this much bags.
Yeah.
But why are you applying this much bags before you know what's deficient? So that's one of the mindsets that has to change if we are to go the sustainability way. Number one, because you have the opportunity to reduce your input costs.
Yeah.
And number two, you have the opportunity to also know what can do best in that farm. Those blanket fertilizations should slowly change. We need that complete shift where you're coming from a point of, this is what I have, this is what I don't have, and where do I get what I don't have? In this case, we are talking about soil. It has this and that, but it doesn't have that. Let me go get that extra nitrogen or extra phosphorus and apply it. So there has to be a lot of advocacy and preaching.
For sure, I can imagine, because, you know, changing mindset is one of the hardest things to do. Could you maybe, is there a projection on when we can be able to just make that turn, you know?
I'd like to hedge that with a strategy that there's a government strategy called the Agricultural Transformation Strategy and Growth Strategy, 2019 to 2029. So what does that say? By 2029, we should have a lot of transformation in the agricultural sector.
By 2029?
Yes. So that's just looking from a policy point of view, right? But it's hard. This is a continuous process. It's not a leap. It's actually a series of small steps where you achieve this, that, and that. Now we're even talking about things like carbon farming, carbon credits, right? So it's a series of small steps where you show sustainability, more production, what does it promise? And also, in a way, nature has a way of telling you have to change your mindset, because if we continue getting rainfall less often or in an erratic way, like you cannot predict it, then in a way you need to know that something has to change. If I keep growing the same crop in the same piece of land and seeing my yields diminishing, I need to know that, wait a minute, something has changed. Our soils are degraded. And that's one of the challenges that's facing Kenyan farming and even agricultural farming, is land degradation. We need to restore that. So I don't have a hard line where this should change, but it's a process. And as we talk about Vision 2030, most of the plans and strategies are pegged on that mark of 2030. But it won't stop at 2030. We'll still get all these transformations, because we'll be importing or we'll be learning from people who have been there before us. And hopefully integrate this knowledge over and over.
All right. And how do we also ensure that, you know, the increased production from tech also results in better income and also, you know, the food security that we are mainly about?
Yes. So ensuring that is I have my own thought that there's a huge gap between innovation or industry and academia. And that's one of the hugely untapped space. Because we have very cool stuff happening in academia. Research after research. But where does it end up? In journals, in shelves, in theses that are nicely, you know, packaged. But it doesn't really connect with the industry. So if we can bridge that, we probably have industry-led research in academia. I think we can leapfrog even this time frame that we are talking about, because it only needs to, the industry has the money, so it will fund research that can make sense in the industry. I've seen developed countries where actually farmers, through their groups, fund research in academic institutions to actually look at specific traits of crops that they are interested in. So we have a huge gap that doesn't take much, I think, to close it and make sure that we have industry-led research. And then people in industry, and I'm talking about even farmers, even the small-scale farmers, will benefit a lot from these kind of communications.
Yeah. And even in line with that and what you've just mentioned while answering that question, do we have real-time or real-world examples that you can actually point to, that you can mention, that is making measurable change, you know, when it comes to crop productivity, and it's working and it's doing really well?
I'll probably talk about cotton production in Australia. So they have embraced the BT, that's modified cotton. And this is, of course, through research that has happened before. So now you're able to grow cotton, sprayed, and not even sprayed because it's resistant to pests, and get super great yields. That's, of course, you're using it for making clothes. Wheat production in places like Denmark, where they are producing a lot through innovations, and they're growing wheat all year. They have winter wheat, they have wheat that grows. In essence, what you're doing, you're growing a crop that's viable for all seasons, and you're guaranteed of production, of course, if you put in the work. Okay. Maybe as we almost come to a conclusion of this conversation, what are some other barriers that we've not gotten to touch on that are affecting us? It's information access, number one, and this stratification of farmers who are small-scale farmers, meaning that they are not able to dictate what's happening in the market. So number one is that you're having farmers who are not able to dictate what happens to them from an input point of view to an output point of view. From an input point of view is that it's nice that you have this subsidy program for fertilizers, so it's probably easier or cheaper for farmers to get the fertilizers. But now they don't have the information on how to apply. Some of the fertilizers you have to do it in split, or you have to apply at this time, or if it's this crop you need to do it in split to ensure that you get maximum usage. The other one is output, where the market is really cruel on you, and you have to rely on farmers, on brokers to set the price. And this has brought about a lot of, I would say, demoralization from the farmers. So then they shy away from investing much of their resources and time in agriculture. And to go back to your question earlier about crop productivity, is that things that work are continuous monitoring. So when you plant a crop and you see that it's failing or something is happening, there are technologies to ensure that you actually get to intervene and not lose it all. So if you're having deficiencies, you can even go test your soil immediately and test your leaf to see if you're having this correlation of plant uptake. So yeah, challenges, information flow being very, very, there are so many gaps in there, and also chances for farmers to intervene from a production and also from a market point of view.
Okay. Maybe just to get to hear from you, what are you most excited about in this innovation space of agriculture?
Oh, there's just a lot that can happen. So I think I'm more excited about where we can go, and also by the small steps that I've seen policy making to actually address these issues. So we are talking about stages where we will be applying spectroscopy for soil analysis, remote sensing for predicting what's happening on the ground, and also mapping out nutrient distribution in our soils. And that's just amazing, because what we'll have is that you, in a snapshot, you can be able to know, if I'm in Western Kenya, this is how the soil generally looks at. And these are the kind of things that I could do, or these are the crops that I could do. But also the space of the potential of Africa to actually be a big player in terms of mitigating climate change. So there will be a lot of incentives for farmers to practice agroecological practices like agroforestry, intercropping, cover crops and things like that, and actually be compensated for that. So having good strategies to actually incentivize farmers to keep on doing this, this is a huge space. And this is where data will play a key role, and science also will come in and drive these kinds of innovation. So we will be moving from blanket or just doing things as they were used to be as a way of thinking to data-driven production, which will be, of course, appealing for the young farmers who might want to engage into farming, because you are talking about keeping records, looking at data, accessing information like weather through digital tools, and making sure that you're not caught off guard in your production process. And now what will happen is that, like I mentioned before, 60% of uncultivated arable land is in Africa. So what will happen if we are able to tap this? Africa will be the food basket of the world.
Yeah, because 60% is quite...
It's massive.
Yeah, it's massive, for sure.
So if we can do that, and it's already happening with like we are opening up markets for crops that were not accessible before, or are not that accessible before, like avocados, and everybody's now planting avocados, because not just because this is a tree and it's nice. You know, Kenya, we also an avocado eating country, but because there are markets out there that have opened up because they need to feed. So we need to practice sustainable intensification.
Yeah. So the future is quite bright.
It is for
matters Africa and agriculture.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's coming from just a side hustle to the main gig, even for the young guys. Not something that you just started when you are a kid by just seeing, and then going to a white collar, and then coming back at your old age to try and practice it. But you can actually do it all the way, and it can be really enjoyable.
All right. Thank you so very much for just shedding light on this very important conversation. You have really gotten to get us into it and getting to understand the technology side, and the advancements when it comes to matters agriculture. So thank you so much for joining us. And maybe just a little banter on football. I don't know how much you know about football. Chanik or KBC. What teams are you supporting?
Oh, no, I try to play it safe at the start. Yeah. I will tell when we are a bit into the advanced stages to avoid dealing it on machungu.
That's the first real person I've heard, Victor, because everyone else just says Team Kenya. I'm supporting Team Kenya simply because you're Kenyan. Okay, I'm also supporting Team Kenya, but I'm saying he's the first real person I've heard kwa sababu he's just open that, he'll get to know as we advance.
So he's not a football fanatic? Are you a football fanatic?
I am, my friend.
Okay, internationally. Do you support Harambee Stars?
He's not an Arsenal fan.
No, I'm not.
You are not an Arsenal fan? No. This conversation is over.
Yeah, but he does support Harambee Stars, obviously.
Oh, yes. I'll be at the stadium on Sunday.
Okay.
That is given. I'll be there. I must have a story to tell. Yes.
All right, and this is where we get to end the show this morning. It has been a really, really informative show from the beginning when Victor talked matters education to this tail end where we've touched on agriculture. This is how we do it each and every morning, weekday morning, right here on Good Morning Kenya on KBC Channel 1. So how about we meet again tomorrow, same time and place. Do have a lovely day.